Should we expect any result from negotiations in Saudi Arabia, and how long will Putin drag out the negotiation process? How much pressure will Trump put on him? This and other topics we will discuss right now. My name is Irina Uzlova, and today with us is Michael Sheitelman, political strategist. Michael, hello, glad to see you as usual. Thank you for joining.
Good evening, Irina. Good evening, all the audience.
Today's negotiations between Ukrainian and American side, between American and Ukrainian and Russian, again with Ukrainians. And how do you assess all this process and the effectiveness of the negotiations in Saudi Arabia? How effective is the system of shuttle diplomacy, or rather interchamber diplomacy?
No, first I could quote the girl who is the deputy of foreign minister of Russian Federation, Maria Zakharova, and she said, don't expect any important results from these meetings. And she's right, I believe. She's right in this case. This is a very rare case, and she's right. Because all of these meetings, they are technical meetings, and at least from our side, from Ukrainian side, we have not politicians, not diplomatic level, but the technical level. This is guys from the army and from the energy sector. Because what is the dispute now? The dispute is, what is energy ceasefire? What is exactly energy ceasefire? Ceasefire on energy. No, this is very new. I don't believe that ever in human history there was energy ceasefire. You know, today, for example, the American advisor for security, Mr. Waltz, he said, you know how he called that? Air infrastructure ceasefire. Air infrastructure. Why he called this air infrastructure? Because in English language, like in any other language, there was no sense, that has no sense, the energy ceasefire. So the same, what is air infrastructure ceasefire, yeah? So it is almost senseless. Why? Because it is very difficult to separate between energy and not energy. What is energy infrastructure and what is not energy infrastructure? For example, in any house we have or gas or electricity. Just in any house. So in any house we have some energy. Energy is inside us. We can't say this is energy, this is not energy. And inside the car, for example, the usual car, there is an engine. And engine work on gasoline. This is also energy. So this is very difficult. And we understood it from the very first day when President Putin said that he is ready for energy ceasefire. And we didn't bomb any energy objects. We, Ukrainian army, we bombed the storage of oil. Storage of oil is not energy. Energy is the electricity production, yes, or electricity transmission, yeah, but not the oil refinery, for example. Oil refinery is not exactly energy. This is refinery, manufacturing. So where is the border? What is energy ceasefire? It is very difficult to define that, very difficult. And more difficult will be surveillance of that. How you will decide? Now Russians, they crossed the line or not crossed the line about energy? Or Ukrainian army? Are we crossing the line when we bombing this object or this object? When you are speaking about total, for example, ceasefire, it's obvious, yeah? You don't shoot, they don't shoot. That's it. When we speak about this ceasefire on the air, water and energy, which was offered by President Macron, here we also can say, for example, you know, we proclaim ceasefire, let's say 20 kilometers from front line. All which happen, all the war happens only on front line, not 20 kilometers, sorry, 80 kilometers, because this is HIMARS range, for example, yes. Yeah? 80 kilometers to one side, 80 kilometers to other side. That's it. This is a zone of war of 160 kilometers, the line of 160 kilometers. At least this is obvious. Where is the border? But now it is not. And all of the negotiation in Saudi Arabia now, it is about that point, and about the other point, which is called water ceasefire, which is also very difficult to define. For example, our ship, or not our ship, ship of the third party, which stands on the harbor of Odessa in Ukraine, for example, is it a legitimate target now or not? Because this is not in the middle of the sea. This is in harbor. So harbors are legitimate target or not? And if the ship in harbor is not legitimate, so equipment of harbor itself, crane, for example, in harbor, this is on the water or not? So this is also very difficult. And then the ship goes to the harbor. It sometimes goes from the sea to the river, you know. And inside Russia, it is the same. They have tankers which took the lorry inside of the river, in Volga, for example, and now goes from Volga to Caspian Sea. So in Caspian Sea, we can't bomb them, and inside Volga, we could bomb them. And where is exactly the border? It is very, very difficult question, very difficult. It looks like technical, but first time in the history, we try to define that. And it looks like, you know, oh, I remember this fairy tale about ancient Greece. You remember the Aesop fairy tale, when Aesop was asked to drink the water of sea. He said, okay, I am ready to drink a water of sea, but without the rivers, which bring their water to the sea. You just should separate and I will drink the sea. So it is the same situation now. So this negotiation, we are not political, we are not military, we are just technical negotiation about definitions.
A lot of problems, but we, as I understood, we gave some list of this object to USA delegation, but it seems to me that it won't work because you're quite right. Where are these borders? Which are these borders? And Michael, to Putin, no borders at all, because day by day he strikes our cities, our civilians. Today, Russia massively strikes Sumy city center, high-rise buildings and school, hit many wounded. So we understand that Putin will prolong these attacks, and that's all, even if some list will be agreed.
First, about the list, let's say a list policy. When we bring some list, so Russian would also bring their list. And this list obviously should consist of the same number of objects, yeah, but also the same size of objects. Let's say if they say, you know, you don't bomb the, I don't know, hydroelectric station Sayano-Shushenskoye, but Sayano-Shushenskoye hydroelectric station is bigger than all of our hydroelectric stations. So you should compare by the, I don't know by what the criteria exactly. So this is also very difficult. Speaking about Mr. Putin behavior and that he continues bombing Ukraine, yeah, this is just a normal practice. And they just say that we broke the ceasefire, but ceasefire didn't start. And again, this is very strange policy from American, not a delegation, but from American officials. For example, today, in the same speech I heard from Mr. Waltz, he not only said that we have the ceasefire about air infrastructure, but he also said that this ceasefire started immediately after the phone conversation between President Trump and Mr. Putin. How it could happen? Ukraine didn't participate in this negotiation. Ukraine didn't participate in this conversation. So it just didn't start. It just didn't start officially. There is no sign of Ukraine. Ukraine not signed this agreement. So there is no agreement. And then Russian propaganda says that, oh, Ukrainian didn't follow this agreement, which does not exist, by the way. That's okay, because they are in the war, and this is Russian propaganda. But when American, very high bureaucrat, and one of the people who, on whom depends this ceasefire, of this future ceasefire, he makes mistakes like that, This is very, very tough situation, and we can't give him, we can't discuss it with him when he doesn't know that we don't have ceasefire, that we didn't sign this ceasefire. It is very difficult to negotiate. This is, by the way, the question of this kind of diplomacy, chamber diplomacy or something. Let's start not from chambers or from a way of diplomacy. Let's start from definitions. They don't know definitions, I mean American side, who try to be mediators.
Putin, we see that Putin dragged out the negotiations. How long can Putin drag out this process? And do you believe in a partial ceasefire by April 20? What might it look like in such way? Because we have not enough time, or USA don't have enough time.
Okay, with April 20 is senseless, absolutely senseless date or something, because we don't know who and from there took this date. Obviously, this is Easter, but that's it. That is everything we know. This is Christian Easter, and Jewish Easter is April 12th, for example. So I don't know what exact Easter we need, and why exactly Easter. So this is not only dreams, but this is from nowhere, from some rumors, from some newspapers, and this has no practical idea after this date. But the very important question is how long Mr. Putin could really to ignore this negotiation, let's say, because in fact he ignores that. He says some stupid ideas to ignore negotiation and to ignore the idea of ceasefire. And he could do that absolutely unlimited time, because Mr. Putin does not want a peace. He wants to continue a war. So why not? He has all the time in the world. Who is limited in time this is American administration and President Trump, because his negotiation continues now is more than 2 months. And he said us that 24 hours is enough for this negotiation. Okay, he said it was sarcasm, it was joke. But afterwards, Kit Kellogg said that his mission is to bring a peace in 100 days from the inauguration of Mr. Trump. Now it is 65 days or something like that. We're over in this Mr. Trump term. So they have a limitation. And now it is in hands and in the head of Mr. Trump to stop and to say, wow, this is Putin who prolongs this negotiation. This is Putin who doesn't want to stop the war. And we are waiting it from Mr. Trump only. Because Mr. Trump, he is a referee here in this situation. Only Mr. Trump is a referee who is ready for the peace and who is not. And we heard from Mr. Trump and Zelensky want a war and Mr. Putin want a peace. So now this is his turn to say anything new, yeah, Mr. Trump, I mean.
We saw an interview by another special envoy of Donald Trump, Steve Witkoff. And to know, after this interview, it seems to me that the United States is not a referee, but they take Russian Federation side because this interview was full of Russian propaganda statements.
Yes, absolutely, full of Russian propaganda statements, and it looks like Mr. Witkoff, he is not the special envoy of Mr. Trump in Russia, but he is special envoy of Mr. Putin inside US or inside Mr. Trump, really. Because now, at least after this interview, what is the good result of this interview? Now I can say why President Trump makes so serious mistakes than he described the situation in Ukrainian-Russian war. When Mr. Trump said not once, but at least twice or 3 times, that some Ukrainian soldiers in Kursk district, they are surrounded by Russian forces, were encircling, and we should save them, etc., etc. I didn't know where is this bullshit come from, yeah? Now I know this bullshit come from Mr. Witkoff, who said that now to Tucker Carlson exactly, that some Ukrainian soldiers surrounded in Kursk, and Putin said him that Putin doesn't want to disrupt these people. He wants them to put white flag, sorry, etc., etc. So this absolute bullshit brought from Putin towards President Trump by Mr. Witkoff. But this is not only one fact of Russian propaganda. We have a lot of very stupid Russian propagandistic messages. For example, that all the occupied territories, there were some referendums, and these territories, in these territories, only Russian-speaking people, they live in these territories, and all of them want to be under Russian Federation and under Russian rules, which is absolute bullshit. And by the way, today, at least Press Secretary of European Union said that this is bullshit, and these faked referendums were under the Russian occupation, and Russian soldiers used weapons for the voting. So the people voted with the guns on the head. Physically with guns on the head. After this interview of Mr. Witkoff, just today, I received the very long list by email from occupied territories, from the girls who are from resistance, Ukrainian resistance to Russian aggression. And they said, no, we want to live in Ukraine, and just sent the message to Mr. Witkoff that this is absolute bullshit. But this is not only that fact. For example, now when I will say you will not believe, but Mr. Witkoff said that Russia and Ukraine were in war on these territories, on occupied territories of Zaporizhia and Kherson and Crimea, etc., from the World War II. Have you heard about that? Ever? From World War II started this war between two of our countries. And they said together with Tucker Carlson that Mr. Khrushchev was Ukrainian and he joined this territory to Ukraine, which is absolute absurd. Yes. Mr. Khrushchev was Russian, from Russian Federation, and he, by the way, was born in Kursk district, which means that if Tucker Carlson says that Khrushchev was Ukrainian, it means that Mr. Tucker Carlson says Kursk this is Ukraine, and he should to be sent to the jail in Russian Federation, by the way, for this sentence. Yeah. So if I'm going through this list of the claims of Mr. Witkoff, so obviously it looks like Russian propaganda, including the fact that Mr. Witkoff compared Ukraine with Hamas, by the way, comparing Ukraine with Hamas. He is the specialist in Middle East, as we know, yeah? He is officially his special envoy of Mr. Trump in Middle East, not in Russia. He never was appointed as a special envoy in Russian Federation, only in Middle East. And he said, in Middle East, I understand Israel, that Israel doesn't want to live near the territory, to have the common border with territory where Hamas is ruling, yeah? Mm-hmm. So the Russian is the same. Russians don't want Ukraine, the border in Ukraine, because Ukraine is like Hamas. By the way, also in this sentence, he made some couple of mistakes. He said that Ukraine is the biggest country which has a border with Russian Federation and the longest border of 2,000 kilometers, which is, again, one more bullshit, because the biggest country which has the common border with Russia is China. And the second one is, the first one is Kazakhstan, second one is China, and the third was in Mongolia, and Ukraine is only number 4 or something, by the which country is the biggest who has a border with Russian Federation. So this guy absolutely doesn't know no history, no reasons of this conflict, and no reality now on this war. That's it. But the good side of this interview was that Mr. Witkoff bring the important questions. Then Tucker Carlson asked him, but the reason for this war is NATO membership of Ukraine. The main question is Mr. Putin and Russian Federation are against the Ukrainian NATO, and this is the reason when they started war. let's not do membership, not give the NATO membership to Ukraine, and it will stop the war. And Mr. Witkoff says, no, that's absolutely not this. This is not a reality. The reality is Russia wants to occupy and to annex Ukrainian territories. This is not war about NATO membership. About NATO membership, I was conclude the deal with Ukrainian side somehow. But the question is 4 or 6 regions, I mean, including Crimea and Sevastopol city. And this is the questions. And this is the elephant in the room, how he said, how Mr. Witkoff said. And everybody who wants to make the negotiation without mentioning the occupied territories, nobody could succeed in this. I don't say that Mr. Witkoff could succeed in this, but nobody else who says, no, we'll discuss the occupied territories, will not succeed not in ceasefire and not in, okay, maybe in ceasefire, but not in peace agreement, yeah.
But everybody in this world understands that Putin doesn't dream about only Pokrovsk or Mariupol or Crimea. His final aim is to capitulation of Ukraine and to make his aggression bigger against NATO countries. For example, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Poland, Radoslav Sikorski, told that if Ukraine doesn't stop Putin, he will attack NATO after 5 years, for example. So does Trump understand it, or Steve Witkoff, or no? Or and Trump, does he like these messages from Steve Witkoff about Putin?
Let's start from the fact that Mr. Putin wants to disrupt Ukrainian status at this, yeah? Mm-hmm. And we has that not as our version or how we think about that, how we see that. No, we have a quotes from Mr. Putin personally. And not only we have these quotes, but Tucker Carlson. I should mention that Tucker Carlson was one of the sides in this conversation. Yes. Witkoff and Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson, in this last conversation from Friday, he said that he went to Russian Federation to interview Mr. Putin, and he was criticized for that, yeah? But he went to Russian Federation to hear what exactly Mr. Putin wants in this war. And what Mr. Putin said to Tucker Carlson just 1 year ago, he said, I want Kyiv. We want to occupy all the districts on the left side of the Dnipro River, and which include also Kharkov, Dnipro, Poltava, etc., and the city of Kyiv. I want the city of Kyiv because city of Kyiv is part of Russian Federation. And now Tucker Carlson somehow doesn't mention that. Why? Did he forget that? I don't believe. All this is not fit to the theory of Mr. Witkoff that Mr. Putin is good guy. By the way, he said he's a good guy. I liked him. And he will stop. He will just stop with these territories. That is everything what he wants. That's it. And Europeans, by the way, Mr. Witkoff said, Europeans, they should be fear from Russian Federation. Russians, they will not go to Europe. No, never. I believe to Mr. Putin. He clearly said that he doesn't want to go to Europe. And as an addition, he said that Europe shouldn't be in any fear because Europe has the fifth paragraph of NATO agreement. And by this fifth point of NATO agreement, fifth paragraph of NATO agreement, U.S. will give the shelter to Europeans, yeah, or something like that. And this is again the bullshit, because Mr. Trump at the same time said, we will not defend European countries from Russian Federation. So, special envoy of Mr. Trump says exactly of the opposite when Mr. Trump says. Exactly the opposite. Because in this situation, it's better for him to say this bullshit, and in another situation, another bullshit. So we have not the politician. Who is Mr. Witkoff? This is a great question. Mm-hmm. He is not a politician. He is not the official bureaucrat. He doesn't have any salary for his efforts. He said that in the interview. So he is just private guy, okay, appointed by Mr. Trump. And are we sure that he is working only for Mr. Trump? By the way, why he was appointed as a special envoy in Middle East? Only because of his good relationship, and which means probably the common business, with Emir of Qatar. And Emir of Qatar is a key guy in Hamas-Israel conflict, because the headquarters of Hamas is located in Qatar. But why he was appointed to Russia, to negotiate with Russians? Why? Probably he has some business interest with Putin's administration, because Putin is the biggest oligarch in Russian Federation. So maybe Mr. Witkoff somehow worked with Russian money, with Mr. Putin money. That's a good question.
Yes, and it's about money, a lot of process by Trump's administration. Our members of parliament, Alexander Mereshko, for example, say that Trump should fire Witkoff and get him out of negotiation process. But does Trump can...
This is our, this is our wishful thinking, but it doesn't depend on us who Mr. Trump appoints as a negotiator. It depends on us only on one side. If Mr. Witkoff doesn't get the result, so probably Mr. Trump will fire him. But also, he is not special envoy to Ukraine. And now in the negotiation, we never seen Mr. Witkoff with our delegation. We never seen also Kit Kellogg with our delegation. Yeah. But Mr. Witkoff, he speaks only with Putin and with his guys, with Lavrov, etc., but not with our guys. So when we are speaking about this chamber diplomacy, two delegation in different chambers, yeah? So chamber diplomacy need one very important element, some middleman who can speak with this delegation and this delegation. And we doesn't have this guy, because Kit Kellogg speaks with our delegation, and Steve Witkoff with Russian delegation. So this is again something senseless. Like Kit Kellogg should negotiate with Steve Witkoff about the peace.
Yeah. In such configuration. President of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, gave a big interview to Time, and Time is with Zelensky on front page, and Zelensky told that if the carrot is poisoned, then thanks God. Zelensky on Trump offering Russia a carrot while leaving Ukraine only a stick. The president believes that if Trump wants, he can get concessions from the Russians because he seems to be the only one Putin is afraid of. At some points in the peace process, when the U.S. threatening the Kremlin with sanctions for the ongoing bombing of Ukraine, the Russians were very scared, Zelensky noted. Do you believe that Trump can make pressure on Russia, and what levels of pressure does Trump have?
President Trump could put pressure on Russian Federation, but I would not say that President Trump has the power to stop this war. This is two different situations. President Trump could put the pressure on Putin, on Russian Federation. This is economic pressure, first of all, the total sanctions, which, by the way, he not proclaimed, but he announced in one of his social network posts. President Trump said that if Putin rejects his plan, and Putin, by the way, rejected Mr. Trump's plan, so he would put the sanctions on all the Russian production, on everything, just all the oil, gas, etc., all the metals. And he also will insist that also Europe put the total sanctions on all the Russian goods. This is very good way to stop a war, obviously. I don't say you could be sure that you will stop a war, but you will bring the situation to the crisis in Russian Federation, at least. Mm-hmm. And the second tool is to bring the weapon, to weaponize Ukraine. This is the second way, to weaponize Ukraine with more and more missiles, more and more fighter jets, etc., etc. This is the only ways that Mr. Trump could do. But we don't see that during 65 days.
Maybe will we see it later? And when?
As I said, now it is in the hands of Mr. Trump to stop this situation, this negotiation, and to say this is not a negotiation, this is just Russian bullshit. Let's stop that. Let's put the new sanctions. Let's produce and let's supply the new weapon to Ukraine, and we will come back to the negotiation table, let's say in 3 months. And maybe in this situation, Mr. Putin will be more, I don't know, agreeable.
Yes. Michael, and we know that Putin gave to Trump a portrait and prayed for him. So maybe now Trump wants to hang this portrait in Colombia, for example, where Trump doesn't like the portrait of himself. And what does these steps by Russian dictator mean for Trump, for whole process in negotiation process, for example, or it's only symbolic moment?
No, on one hand, it is only a symbolic moment, but I found a couple of like situation in the art, in movies and books. You know, the first situation in giving the portrait and giving the picture to your partner to negotiation is the situation from the movie which is called Rock and Roller, the movie by Guy Ritchie. And this is the movie, and two main characters, one of them is Russian gangster, which is, okay, like Abramovich, oligarch Abramovich, but we also can say that this is Putin. And another one is the guy from the business of development in London, who has a good connections in city major of London, and they want to build a stadium. And the Russian gangster give as a present his favorite picture to London gangster, to London businessman from development. But at the end of this story, the London guy, he was killed yeah, by Russians. So this is very bad idea to take the presents from the gangsters, from Russian gangsters. This is very big bad idea. Anybody who participated in Russian gangster wars knows that exactly, that this is like Trojan horse. And this is the first story. The second story of portrait in Colorado, which President Trump didn't like, you know, this is also has the reflection in world culture. This is the book, The Portrait of Dorian Gray. Portrait of Dorian Gray. This is the novel of, how called this, you know, Portrait of Dorian Gray. Who is the author?
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde,
Yeah.
exactly, Oscar Wilde. And what was the story? That Dorian Gray, the young guy, he had this portrait of himself, and he asked, when he prayed, that all the changes in the face will be on portrait and not on him. When the portrait will be older and older and older, but the original guy will be young forever. And all the bad things which Dorian Gray did in his life, and he did very, very bad things, they reflected on the face of portrait, but not on his face, not on his face. So he didn't know that he behaved very bad. So this is the story about Mr. Trump. He behaved very bad. He behaved very bad towards Ukraine, towards international law, towards Danish people, towards Canadian people, towards many, many people in the world, really. And he disrespected the people who were killed by Russians. He absolutely disrespected the soldiers who were killed by Russians. And all of this not appear on his personal face, but appear on the face of this portrait in Colorado, US.
You know, Michael, today I gave a quote from this book to my author program because it's really adequate to this situation, this characteristic, and it's one of my favorite book. And you're one of our favorite guests. Thank you for today's interview. Thank you for your time. See you next week. Take care.
Thank you, Irina. Bye.
Michael Sheitelman, political strategist, was with us. My name is Irina Uzlova. Thank you guys for joining, for watching. Please leave your comments and subscribe to our YouTube channels. Believe in yourself. See you later. Take care.